What's up guys, Steven here. Welcome back to another video, and today it's time to bring you my full review after 2 months of using the brand new Huawei Matebook X Pro 2020. So well, I could use it for a bit over 2 months and I've used everything on it. So I used it for office work, for video editing on YouTube, on TikTok, now for just browsing the web, having some fun and also playing games. Now it's a very nice laptop and a high-end piece of technology, but as with every product, there are pros and cons. And today we'll find out if this is the right fit for you. As always, a little disclaimer, this video is supported by Huawei and the laptop is provided by Huawei. But as always guys, you will always get my honest opinion about the product. So I would say, let's go! So guys, as you might know, I was using the Huawei Matebook X Pro, so the previous generation, for at least more than 6 months. So I was using it as my daily driver, I had a docking station, eGPU, I was doing all my work on this laptop. Now here we have the newer generation. There are some changes on the internals, but from the outside, from the design, it's still outstanding. It's 13.9 inches as you can see. It's very lightweight. It's only around about 1.3 kilograms, 14 millimeters maximum thickness. So this is really a very portable laptop. Now this one comes also in a green color. I had the silver version, which I really liked. There was also a gray version, very similar to the space gray. But yeah, the green version is one of the new colors on the Matebook X Pro 2020. So I would say the biggest selling point of this laptop is simply the design, because it's very lightweight and portable. The screen, it's a touch screen. Now the touch screen is really cool. It works absolutely great. I didn't really find a use case for it. I mean, yes, for browsing on the Facebook feed, it was actually really nice and useful. But to be honest, in 6 months of using the Huawei Matebook X Pro and now over 2 months on the newer generation, I barely used the touchscreen. So it's a nice to have feature, but not a must-have feature. But other than that, I think the display is really one of the best you can have in a laptop. First of all, it's really bright. Now, the brightness on the paper, it's around 450 nits, but in most of the reviews, they measure over 500 nits. So when you use that display outdoor, you really have no problems. I was video editing outdoors with some sunlight, for sure not direct sunlight, because it's a very glossy finish, so it's very mirroring, so you need to crank up the brightness, which for sure gets down a little bit on your battery capacity. But this screen is absolutely gorgeous. Especially for creators like me, for video editing or for editing pictures, it's 100% sRGB. And this is one of the most important features if I buy a laptop. So the hardware is the second most important thing, but the display itself, you know, if you see wrong colors as a creator on the screen, you can have the best hardware, but your end result will not look very good. Also, it's a different form factor, so it's not really 16:9 as you can see, because it's 3000 times 2000 pixels, so very high resolution, which is actually great. Due to the form factor, you can see more on the screen when you have some websites open. And also due to the resolution, you know, you can have it smaller and not pixelated, and it looks really good. The only downside of that resolution is for instance, if you're playing games and you want to use that resolution, well, it really drains a lot of power, and also yeah, you need a very powerful system to drive a display with that high resolution. But for tasks where you don't need really high power, like for working, this resolution is really amazing. And also for pictures in Photoshop or video editing, well, this display is one of the best I've used in a laptop. The display is also very thin because, well, the whole laptop is very thin as you can see. And this is also one of the reasons why you cannot find a webcam inside of the display, because, well, it's very thin. Now Huawei has hidden the webcam inside of the keyboards and one of the buttons, which is really cool if you're concerned about privacy issues, because, you know, if you hide the webcam, it cannot record anything. That is the positive thing. The negative thing is still that it's pointing upwards, so it will get you a little bit strange viewing angles. So if you're doing a call, and also if you're typing something on the screen, then well, your fingers are in the way of the webcam. This is a little bit awkward. You have to get used to. For sure, you can put, you know, the notebook a little bit higher, then the viewing angle gets better. But still, if you're typing something on the keyboard, then everybody will see that you are typing something. Now, talking about the keyboard, to be honest, it's one of the best keyboards I've used. It has very shallow key travel, but still a very good pressure point. So you need to try it for yourself in the store. To be honest, I really like the keyboard. I was writing all my scripts for YouTube on there, and it is getting the job done. You also have a lot of function buttons, which is really important for me, like to adjust the brightness, the keyboard backlight, and also, you know, it's kind of spill waterproof, so if you spill something, I spilled Coke over it, that was no problem at all. Now we have a touchpad that is quite big. Luckily it's not that big like on the MacBook Pro, because this drives me crazy. It's always too huge, then you know my palm is somehow on the trackpad and I check the display and something is moving. It's kind of awkward. I think the size of the touchpad here on the MacBook X Pro, it's still huge, but it's quite good. Then let's go straight to the connectors. So one thing that is really important for me on a laptop is that it has at least one Thunderbolt. We all know that some competitors, they have up to 4 Thunderbolts, which is really amazing, but it depends on how many accessories you're using. If you're using an eGPU and a dock and maybe a Thunderbolt SSD, then it makes really sense to have more Thunderbolts. If you don't plan on using that, one Thunderbolt like here on the Huawei Matebook X Pro 2020 really gets the job done. Don't mix that up, so we have 2 Type-C ports, but one is USB 3.1 non-Thunderbolt, and one of them is the Thunderbolt port with the full bandwidth, so you can use eGPUs or whatever you want. There's also a 3.5mm headphone jack, which is quite handy, but to be honest, I was using Bluetooth headphones. There was no delay also during editing videos, that's good. And this is also for kind of you know, office users who don't want to carry like dongles or something. There's a full-sized USB port on the right side. That is very useful. For instance, on a MacBook, you always need to have a dongle if you get a USB drive from something, and if you don't have a dongle, well, you're out of luck. It's really useful to have a USB port, but I would really wish that there would be one Thunderbolt port extra for, you know, for eGPU and accessories. Then this would be like the perfect thing ever. Now you can charge it with both USB-C ports, it doesn't matter, but one is labeled as a charger and the other one is the Thunderbolt port. Now even though it's an Ultrabook, it has integrated fans, so you will hear the fan spinning. I just did a Windows update, so it got kind of loud. Then also in games or during video editing, so during really heavy work, you definitely hear the fan spinning. It's cooler than the last generation. On my last generation, this got really hot. You could almost burn your fingers on the keyboard. No, it was not that bad, but you know, very hot that you feel it. But on the new generation, the heatsinks, I guess, are better. Maybe also the fan design, and you know, it's using a different chipset. So I think there are some huge improvements on the thermal management on this Huawei notebook, because you don't feel that heat anymore on your palm, which is really nice. And also if you have the notebook, for instance, in the bed on you, you don't really feel the heat that much anymore. For sure, it's a small device, so it heats up because it's also not quite powerful for the size, but the fan noise is really on an average level, and Huawei did a pretty good job on the thermal design. Now when it comes to the battery life, well, I don't really like talking about battery life too much, because it so depends on your usage. Now Huawei says like up to 10-11 hours of using it, but it depends for sure how you use it. Well, for random video playback without Wi-Fi connection, it was lasting for 12 hours. This was absolutely crazy. Now, if you have Wi-Fi on, it for sure also depends on the display brightness. So we're talking here about 50–40% of display brightness, which is usually good for indoors. But when you go outdoors and there's sun shining, for sure you crank up the display brightness to at least an 80%, and then you know you can drop 1, 2, 3 hours depending on your usage. So also depends on how many background processes there are open, so how heavy the CPU is working and everything. So I would say it's a very good battery life. You can get at least 5 to 6 hours depending on your work for sure. If you're video editing, for sure it's not that much, but usually very good battery life. If you just use it for the office, one full working day is absolutely enough. If you're doing some more hard work like editing pictures, you know, Photoshop and everything, well, a couple of hours depending on what you do. And I would say for a work day, this is usually enough. The charging time, however, is a little bit long. It's around 140 minutes, so something like 2.5 hours, then it's full for sure. Now, there's a 65-watt adapter included. It's a kind of small adapter, which is really cool. There's a Type-C cable included, so you just plug it in into one of the ports and it's charging. In my office, I have a docking station with Type-C or actually Thunderbolt, and it's charging the laptop fine, also 65 watts. So it works perfectly fine with all kind of third-party docking stations too, which is really convenient. Now, I've seen that some people complained about the speaker or just said they are average speakers. Well, for sure, the speakers are average, but compared to the size of the laptop, they are really great. I had like big gaming laptops with the worst speakers ever, and this sounds really solid in such a small body. Now for sure, over 70% or 65-70% it starts to rumble a little bit, so you also feel that there's something going on in the body because it's a kind of small body. But until that, it's super clear, and then, well, it just gets louder, but not that clear. Now guys, talking about performance, so well, we have an i7 from the 10th generation, we have 16 GB of RAM and a 1 TB SSD. Now I also mentioned the SSD in performance because it's a kind of fast SSD, Samsung SSD, and especially for video editing or opening large files, a fast SSD is really essential. Now a little bit feedback on video editing. Full HD video editing you can do. 4K, I had to use the eGPU on the previous generation. Also on this one here, it's really much better with an eGPU. It's still crashing from time to time in Premiere Pro, but it can get the job done if you have an external GPU. On the internal GPU, you can for sure edit 4K, but it won't be a real smooth operation, I would say. Now when it comes to gaming, well, I played some games, Counter-Strike Go, PUBG. Well, on an external monitor, especially if you also blow up the resolution, it struggles, so you have to keep the details on minimum. So all the games, they run kind of fine. You can for sure play Overwatch, PUBG. I played World of Warcraft for 3 months on my previous generation, and it's getting the job done. Now the NVIDIA MX250, it's just a very small step from the MX150. It sounds for sure like the next generation, but in terms of performance, this is not really a big update. It's just like an overclocked version kind of. Still, it's a very powerful GPU for such a small laptop, and this gives you the ability at least to play games. For sure, it's not a gaming laptop. You can maybe try some newer titles, but then you have to play for sure in lower details. And be sure that the game is never choosing the resolution, the full resolution of the display, because this is 3000 x 2000 pixels, and yeah, you really need a very strong graphics card in order to play that. But still, it's kind of powerful. Office work, we don't have to talk about this. Office work working perfectly fine. 16 gigs of RAM, you can have like 30-50 Chrome tabs open, no problem at all. So it's really good to have the 16 GB version, because I had the 8 GB version of the Matebook X Pro, the previous generation, and that was the reason why I actually upgraded, because especially for video editing, you want to have as much RAM as possible, because this really helps. And then adding an extra eGPU makes this actually usable, especially for gaming. You can check out my older videos with the eGPU. This was performing really good. Now, the good thing is on battery, there's no thermal throttling. So also if it gets hot or something, it doesn't really reduce the performance of the chip. That's really good. Now, you may read Core i7 in this laptop, which makes you think, yeah, an i7 like in the desktop, but you need to keep in mind that these are mobile chipsets. They have much lower power in order to consume less power. And yeah, it's still an i7, which is a bit more powerful than usually the i5s in the laptops, but don't expect too much like this is acting like a desktop i7. But performance-wise, this laptop is really good and gets everything done from office work to streaming 4K videos, and also to slight gaming or video editing, or especially editing pictures. Now, one very important thing, and this is connectivity. So we have no Wi-Fi 6 on board. This is something most of the reviewers mention, but still the Wi-Fi integrated, it's fast, it's really fast, and I had no problems with the Wi-Fi connection so far. Then there is Bluetooth integrated. That means you can use the FreeBuds or anything, you know, to do voice calls, or I was video editing. And on some laptops I noticed a delay during video editing, but here I haven't noticed so far a delay between the Bluetooth connection. That was good. And something no one ever mentions in their reviews is actually multi-screen collaboration and Huawei Share. Now, one of the key selling features of a MacBook and why people buy it is actually AirDrop. So that you can easily get files from your smartphone, from your iPhone to your MacBook. But here we have now Huawei Share, which is basically that, but also much more. So all I have to do is I just grab my P40 Pro, I turn on NFC, I put it on the laptop, and it is actually connecting to the laptop, as you can see right now. So I just have to allow the connection. The smartphone is now connecting to the notebook, and as you can see here right now, so I can basically use my smartphone on the laptop. But not only that, it's like a seamless integration. That means I can open up the gallery and just drag and drop pictures to the laptop, which is really, really cool. So just check this out, guys. You go here to the gallery, you go here, for instance, to videos. Then I've tested out the Huawei 360-degree camera, and let's say I want to have the video now here on my desktop. So I just drag and drop it, and it's copying everything there. So you don't have to choose anything on your phone, then go to Huawei Share and share it. You can do it here directly on the computer, which is really cool. That also means you can use apps on the computer, like if you don't want to use your phone for some apps, you can just connect and use everything here. And one of my highlight features was actually that you could use the camera, and I can use the Huawei Matebook X Pro as a remote shutter for the smartphone, which is really cool. So if I press the shutter right over here, the smartphone takes a picture, and I can already access it and drag and drop it to the computer. So this is a really seamless integration, as you can see. So also if I use my smartphone as here right now, you see everything here also on the screen, which is really, really cool. So Huawei is really working on the ecosystem to make it as easy as possible to integrate all the devices. So I think we will see a lot of things in the future. Something I want to mention at this point right now is also pedal search. Now Huawei has released a new app search, but this will also improve in the future to many, many more features. And this is a really cool way on how to get apps on the P40 Pro, just in case you also have a new Huawei device. So if you cannot find any application in the Huawei app gallery, pedal search will tell you where to download the app safe and secure from verified sources. And this is a real step into the future where we don't need a Google ecosystem anymore. And I think this is really, really cool. So I think Huawei still needs some time to polish some things out, but they are on a really, really good way with their ecosystem and also the integration between all the devices, because this is working awesome. Alright guys, so we're now here at the end of this video, and just quickly to sum it up, who should buy this laptop? So I'm self-employed, I'm traveling quite often, I do slight work, but for heavy work I just go to my desktop PC to edit like some 4K videos. So I think you shouldn't really buy it if you have to do some really, really heavy intensive work which needs a lot of performance, like 4K video editing for clients or something. If you do some TikTok videos like me, by the way, I do TikTok for some time now, so if you want to check it out, link is down below. Then I edited all my TikTok videos on there, and it's working like a charm. So Full HD is also working fine. Also editing pictures due to the sRGB display and the nice performance, it's no problem at all. So for slight work, it is a perfect laptop because it has good battery life, it's lightweight, has a nice design, and for sure, also if you like design, it's a good laptop to get. You also shouldn't buy it probably if you're looking for a high-end gaming laptop. This is not marketed or sold as a gaming laptop, but you can play if you're in the mood to, and I also played Counter-Strike Source on it, and yeah, it wasn't really a problem. So overall, really nice laptop. I really like the Huawei Share integration. This is also the reason why I don't use the previous generation anymore, because I think Huawei Share is one of the killer features on this device, and yeah, let me know what you think about it. Alrighty guys, so big thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions about the laptop, if I forgot something, then write a comment down below and I'll try to reply as soon as possible. And if you speak German and you like short, funny videos, then also make sure to follow me on TikTok. As always guys, big thanks for watching. I'm Steven from Tech Magnet, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.